Welcome back to Choreographed Critics. We got some more on the Raw for Netflix debut, as well as some predictions for 2025. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John. Joining me as always is Joel.
Hello, hello. Yeah, looks like John, we had to make a last minute decision to kind of do a part two because lots of moving pieces. This is turning out to be quite an extravagant event for WWE. I feel like they've stacked the card for January 6th as if it's a PLE. And man, there are a lot of things happening from John Cena returning to Paul Heyman being ringside now as some type of Ulafala guardian. So I didn't know the wise man would be implicated as part of the prize. Solo said on SmackDown, he goes, and if I win, you will acknowledge me and you'll be my wise man forever. And I was like, oh, that's a little weird, but how does that work? Yeah, what are your thoughts on what you want to bring to this episode as far as predictions, what we're gonna see on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it, right? That Paul Heyman segment was pretty interesting, and Solo did say in that too that he would acknowledge Roman if Roman won, which he kind of went over months ago too. But it'll be curious to see what Paul Heyman ultimately does, and if Solo were to win and Heyman were to be his wise man, does that CM Punk favor carry over with Paul Heyman, or is that actually with Roman? Um, so that's curious. We also have a couple changes to the card. We talked about Liv and Rhea having last woman standing match potentially for the title, and that was speculative at the time. Nothing set in stone. They did ultimately settle on just a normal 1v1 match for the title, which I don't know. We both last week were just like, get it off of Liv for the most part. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't really matter what kind of match it is to me. Just keep that going. The women's IC match is not going to take place on the show. I kind of wonder if it's because the card is so stacked and it's a brand new title. Like they want to
Yeah.
have emphasis on it as like being this big deal and the thing that you remember from the show. So they're going to be doing that the week following,
That's
which,
a good point. It would be overshadowed.
yeah, so I'm okay with it. Um, and then they also added Jay Uso versus Drew McIntyre, which Drew's been kind of going after everybody that fought on Team Roman for the War Games match a couple months ago. Um, so that's playing more into that. And on Friday, he was pretty involved with SmackDown, and Jay was there as well.
Yeah. He's starting to feel like a wild card. He kind of feels, in the absence of Brock Lesnar, he feels like that, that shredded tough guy. When his music hits, you're like, ah, shit's going down. Drew's upset with something. What's going to happen? So I do like how they're using Drew. However, with that wild card being his preface, I think he could use some concrete direction because sure you have him chasing whoever he's mad at, but as far as the title scene, it doesn't seem like he's destined for gold anytime soon.
No, and part of his he had an interaction with Cody at the beginning of SmackDown, and he said in that he wasn't trying to hurt Cody or go for his title or whatever, and Cody obviously for good reason did not believe him. But I could
Yeah.
see that coming up down the road, maybe after some of this Cody and KO stuff is settled. like there's potentially Drew just moving to SmackDown, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
still have like a few talents up in the air like that, and to me it seems like between Drew, Jay, Sammy, like those guys have been on SmackDown a lot more lately. So
Mm-hmm.
I could see
Yeah.
them just moving there, but yeah, I'm sure they'll answer more of those questions this week.
Yeah, and Tiffany Stratton finally cashed in, capitalized, and is now the SmackDown Women's Champion,
Hell yeah. That was
which is great.
yeah. Did you like how that went?
I did. I love the pivot and I love the oh yeah, Nia Jax, I'm helping you against Naomi. I'm just I want to be your favorite against Psych. Bash, 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 cash in. And I
Right.
love that because it kind of solidifies Tiffany as this cerebral assassin. Sorry, Triple H, but she's the female cerebral assassin, and it's her time. It's Tiffy time, and the pop was great. People were ready, and we just spoke last week. I said if they draw this out any longer, Tiffany loses momentum. Good call going into the new year. This is definitely her time to hold the title and a good time to bring Charlotte Flair back into the picture because I want to see at this point Tiffany Stratton go against a legend because one thing we haven't seen is Tiffany Stratton be challenged by somebody with um, a very long career, lots of experience in the ring. She's been kind of an apprentice to mid card level competitors. Nia Jax was about the closest she got to the top, but I don't consider with Nia Jax's absence, especially with the COVID ordeal, she was one of those who got let go during the COVID era. I don't think Stratton has brushed shoulders with legends or people with an impressive resume. It's not like we're seeing Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch feud with Stratton, but it has the potential to be WrestleMania level quality if we get Charlotte Flair back into the ring and we have Stratton being like the new princess of the brand, right? And let's remind everybody who Charlotte Flair is, the queen. So I see that as a possible feud down the road for her title run, but I'm very pleased with the cash in.
Me too. And yeah, it seemed like they had this planned for the new year specifically, and them moving SmackDown to 3 hours, like something kind of needed to happen on the show that was important because like it was a good show overall, moving to 3 hours,
Yeah.
but I think there was one point in the show where I was just like, oh, they kind of ran out of material a little bit just because they had like that 6-man tag match and they were yeeting for I think it was five
Oh
minutes.
my.
Um so
Absolutely.
they yeeted for 5 minutes and then had a minute and a half in the ring and then went to commercial. So that was like, okay, we gotta stretch a little time here. We don't have quite enough. But
You're spot
anyways,
on.
like going back to Tiffany though, yeah, we do need to see her against somebody important. All we've seen of her lately is like just taking losses because she has the briefcase. Like she could be somebody that people go over on, and it doesn't hurt her stature because she's just she was just always seconds away from being the champion. So who cares if she
Hmm.
lost here and there? Um, but yeah, it'll be fun to see. I Now that I think about it, she might have feuded with Becky Lynch briefly when she was NXT champion. Um,
All right.
but not a lot of people got exposure to that, so it'll be good to see that
Right.
on the main roster. And you brought up Trish Stratus; that could be somebody too. Um, she randomly will come back, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Former bombshell versus newly crowned bombshell.
There you go. Yeah,
Something like that.
don't make a title
Now,
Triple H. We don't need a title for that, like the
no, no,
tribal.
bombshell title.
But
That's
yeah,
funny. No, I was pleased. SmackDown, as far as the filler goes, yeah, there was some of that. I will say with Uso, so we kind of wanted to discuss some predictions going into 2025. It's very clear to me whatever happens between Reigns and Solo, Jay Uso is in a better position than Jimmy Uso to be the head of the table. And if we really retrace our steps in the bloodline drama, we can go back to very critical moments where Jay Uso was the number one contender for that spot. Um, he is a maestro at this point. He commands the crowd. I will tell you when his music hits, the energy spikes. WWE Creative is obviously well aware that they're sending him as a face through the crowd. He's untouchable as a face. He has command over the crowd where he can. It's almost like a concert, John, when his music hits. The engagement and interplay between talent and crowd is really beautiful. You don't see it too often with somebody not at the top of the card to have such a command. So I don't know how they maintain that momentum because eventually the Yeet will burn out. Is 2025 the year of the Yeet, or do you think it was 2024? Are we just getting started, or does Jay have a lot left in the tank to deliver on the character he's developed from the Rocky Maivia throwback? The slaps, let's talk about the slaps. It's clear that Jay Uso has emulated early Rocky Maivia into the Attitude Era where The Rock was climbing the card. He does the spit with that last slap. There's a lot of throwback, and it would be wise for WWE to not only continue the momentum but elevate. So I understand why they're using Drew as a wild card to keep his momentum steady. You got to have Jay Uso engaged. I don't know where that leaves Jimmy, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what Jimmy at all. I think he's just unfortunately destined to be the sidekick or the one B if they're in a tag team. Which is a little unfortunate to him because I don't think he's not like I don't think Jay's like significantly better than him in the ring, and the promo stuff I think is consequential almost just like oh he happened to have the better idea with how to take like the singles music like veering away from um what their tag team music was, and that wasn't Jay's decision really, right? Like that's the booking
Right.
creative. um so yeah. What was I gonna say as far as Roman goes? um
Well, I think you're right, John. Part of the split early on with the Bloodline story before Solo turned full heel and tried to capitalize on becoming the new tribal chief, Creative did set up Jey Uso to be that face. They didn't do it for Jimmy, and I think you have a good point. Jimmy's just as capable. It's just creatively it never happened.
yeah, and I don't know if he just hasn't had enough singles time on the mic without like I don't know, without Jay there, I guess. And part of that could have been injury too. Like there was
Mm,
time where Jimmy just wasn't there and that just gave Jay all these reps, I suppose.
mm,
Um
yeah.
but yeah, trying to think was there sorry, did you ask me something else too?
Well, I was just seeing if you think that after the collision between Solo and Reigns, is Jay set up to be the next inheritor? Is Jay
Oh,
set up to be the next competitor for the Ulafala? Because we might as well get into it. I personally believe Solo's going to win on Raw. And I'll tell you why. It's not that like I want it to happen, but where do you go creatively with Reigns taking back the Ulafala?
yeah. That'll be like I don't know. You're right because if he just has it and then they're just by like yeah, back to being the tribal chief and um like we've discussed before, like he hasn't really changed his character since coming back either. He just kind of is over. Like it's not anything he did to be like, yeah, I'm the good guy now. He's still like he's still the same person. So yeah, if he just gets it back and then they just do more of that, it's gonna be weird. And I don't know. I'm curious what you think about this. With Paul Heyman holding the thing and them
Yeah.
like they kind of had this segment where Solo and him were talking and they had landed on I want you to hold the Ulafala, Paul, for the match, and if Roman Reigns wins, you'll put the Ulafala around his neck. I will acknowledge him as my tribal chief. But if I win, you put the Ulafala around my neck, and you acknowledge me as your tribal chief, and you're mine, like you're my wise man. Um,
Forever.
so him being added to that, I could see something where I don't know, this might be too far fetched, but like if Paul is ultimately working for The Rock and
Oh,
like Solo and Reigns have this match and Rock doesn't like the deciding like result or whatever, like Paul's got the thing in his hand, right? So he
right,
can
right.
not hand it off or whatever, like potentially. Um because yeah, honestly, if Solo wins too, it's kind of the same thing where it's just like, what do we do now? Because unless we definitively see the Rock, and the Rock is just like, Roman, you've let me down one last for the last time, blah blah blah, and it takes us into that, then okay. But I don't see the Rock coming out that like definitive tomorrow. But
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
I mean, with I'm going to be a little facetious here, but The Rock did just open up a new position on TKO stock. So he's probably on ChatGPT and going, if Roman Reigns wins, what does it do to take TKO stock? If Solo wins, okay, I need to go for that. No, I think The Rock is going to return as the heel he is. And people talk about this. People say, hey, have you noticed since Heyman's return, he actually reps Solo's colors? Is that a veiled foreshadow? A lot of people have wondered a lot, and Heyman's a snake. Let's just face it. As much as Heyman can be over with the crowd and people can sing along to my name, um, he is a snake. He's a weasel. He's a slimy dirtbag. That's who he is, right? Like that's Paul Heyman through and through. Not just as a character, but as a promoter. So I think creative is going to be wise and you maximizing whatever outcome is plausible. And I think we're going to see The Rock. If we don't see The Rock, I'd be shocked. It's the debut of Raw. You're going to have Logan Paul, Cena there. You're going to have what? Travis Scott. Not that that matters. The point is they're pulling all the stops, right? And so, yeah, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be some of that internal struggle. You'll see Heyman ringside being like, "My tribal chief." Do you remember the looks he used to give Reigns when he would come out with the two titles, and he would just be enamored, looking at him wide, buggy eyed,
Yeah.
and you're like, "God, Heyman, you're such a little weasel." Um, he's going to return to form, I think, on Raw. And what is the form? A weasel, a snake. So I think there might be some foreshadowing. Solo's going to win. Personally believe that sets up Reigns and Rock for Mania because there's nothing else to do with Reigns except for catapult him to a main event match. What something we've been really itching for creatively, but it was bad timing with Cody. Okay, so it's gonna capitulate to that. Reigns losing, Paul Heyman realigning, being his slimy old self. You're gonna have the new bloodline on a 3-hour SmackDown. Who knows what they do with that? You could go many directions. Probably chase gold. I don't know. And then Reigns versus Rock for Mania. That leaves Royal Rumble way up in the air for like who's gonna appear, who's gonna be winning it. But we can maybe throw some predictions out there since that is the next PLE after this big Raw. What do you think about that though, John? Do you think that is the best move creatively for WWE to just kind of make Solo the kingpin, throw the Bloodline storyline under the new reign of, you know, the new bloodline. You have Jacob Fatu, who is just a banger. He needs to stay in the spotlight, and then you can take Reigns and carefully curate that Rock Reigns match.
Yeah. I kind of hope the way that they go with it is they have Roman win and have Solo acknowledge him, and then have Fatu like turn on Solo essentially,
Oh,
because he's
I
not in.
love you, Solo. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he's not necessarily on the same page with. We need to acknowledge whoever has the Ulafala after what happens tomorrow. Like, we don't know how him and Tamatonga and Tongaloa feel. If it really is I love you Solo, and Solo is like admitting defeat, admitting weakness, and they're not gonna love Solo anymore, and then maybe they turn on him and they start like their own like version of the bloodline kind of thing. And there's still like some lingering Samoan dude that WWE hired that I couldn't tell you his name
Of
if I
course.
wanted to, but he's around, and like they could just add this person in at any point, whether it's the Royal Rumble or um, whatever it might be. Um, so I kind of want to see it go that way, and then like The Rock kind of maybe align with the Jacob Fatu bloodline. Um, but
Yeah, yeah.
we'll
Well, you're,
see.
you're tickling my brain, John, because now I'm wondering too, what if Tongaloa and Fatu are purely the guardians of the Ulafala and they go where the Ulafala goes? And what if when Reigns wins, they do turn on Solo, and it's not to put Fatu in the number one spot, but to show that allegiance is with the Ulafala.
Mm,
And that would be interesting for one reason. That makes the Ulafala officially a bloodline title of some sort, and it builds allegiance. So there's one thing, since you brought it up, Corey Graves had some wonderful articulation on SmackDown, as he usually is. He's a witty guy, and he said, "You know what the difference is between Roman Reigns and Solo as far as leadership goes?" He said, "Solo is in the trenches, winning the battles with them. Reigns had minions. He had employees." And that's curious to note because what if Jacob Fatu and the Tongaloa and Tamatanga, what if they truly are that true to the bloodline? And it really matters who wears the Ulafala and nothing else matters.
yeah, and that would be interesting too if they decided like to put it on Roman, and then they just like decide to like join the new bloodline because they are all about the
Mm,
Ulafala, and then maybe that causes conflict with the original members because they're like, these guys, there's a reason we didn't have them here, and blah blah blah. Like, they've said that
yeah.
already. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot they could do with that now. Um, we'll see. I know that The Rock will be involved somehow. He's got to be. He's got to be at this point. And
If he's not, are you disappointed?
um, I'm gonna go with yeah, just because it's gonna make the build to everything else seem weird because they're still gonna just. I don't. I just feel like all the time they're just. We've talked about it. Like, they're on the hinges of, is The Rock gonna be there or not, and we're not gonna know until the last minute. Um, So if he never shows, yeah, I'll be disappointed. But I kind of would want them to make that clear now and just move on. But um, yeah, do you think he for sure is gonna have a Mania match? Even because I've heard some stuff that
Mm,
he could not be involved with that, and I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me to even be like associated with the company if you're going to keep doing this, like,
right, right. I feel like all roads lead to Mania. So for him to be associated at all and not just as a board member, but in the ring cutting promos, yeah, you're going to have a match. And I apologize. It appears as the Earth spins, the sun is a different angle. Last time we recorded, so now I have a little bit of these weird. This is not a new effect we're applying.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, The Rock, I he has to. I Reigns versus The Rock is going to be epic. It's going to be great. It just was poor timing last time they wanted to execute it. It's
Right.
something we've wanted forever, and it doesn't matter what happens with the bloodline. Those two going at it will be a great match. So yeah, if you're going to appear, Rock, you better gear up because you should have a match at Mania. It's going to be in Las Vegas. Um, and yeah, it could also go down where Reigns wins and The Rock comes out and goes, I'm not satisfied with this. I'm not, and that sets it up. So maybe you can have Reigns take the Ulafalo back, and it becomes a new struggle for the Ulafalo, and The Rock goes solo. If you can't capitalize on this position, if you're not strong enough to be the new head of the table, then maybe I will be because I already am the final boss. Something like that. Going back to what I just said, I think all roads lead to Mania for Rock's involvement. There's no other reason for him to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Um, unless you got something else to say about that match, I think we can move on to something else here.
Definitely, I'm with you there. I mean, there's lots to talk about. I wanted to kind of discuss, or at least predict John Cena's involvement on his farewell tour. I thought he would return in the Royal Rumble and be like this wild card. Is he going to make it to the end, but then get eliminated by another surprise opponent? What do you think? What are they setting John to do in
Yeah,
2025?
I think he'll be in the Royal Rumble for sure. I don't know if he'll win it or not. We talked about that I think a couple episodes ago. Like if he were to return and to win, would he go after or would he go after Cody or would he go after Gunther? Um,
Mm,
and I yeah, I mean the Royal Rumble's so up in the air this year. Like there's
mm,
so many possibilities of who it could be, and that almost makes me think like it'll be somebody we're not thinking of just because
right,
it's so it's so out there right now. Like it could be Rock just coming back, could be Cena, could be one of Punk or Rollins if they're trying to set something up there. It could be a surprise Randy return. There's just so many
that's right.
possibilities. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, with Cena, he'll declare for the Rumble tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that's what will happen, and he'll just say how he wouldn't be anywhere without WWE, and how this is a brand new era going to Netflix, and
it's all
um,
about you, the WWE universe.
exactly, it's all about the fans, and then somebody, whether it's like a call up or a transfer person or just a big heel, I think somebody will like interrupt his promo at the end, and maybe they'll take a program into it, or maybe they'll just like I could see somebody like Gunther interrupting and being like, John Cena, you were the best to ever do it, and blah blah blah, and then just like end up turning it on him that he's really not as
Right.
prestigious as he's just hyping him up to be, and how he's an embarrassment and whatever.
Yeah. It is Raw, so it's Gunther's house.
Right. So, what do you think? Do you think he'll actually like get into it before the Rumble, or
I could see him throw hands if somebody comes out. Otherwise, it's going to be that typical John Cena energy. He's gonna, you know, have Stu the cameraman focused in, and but no, he's gonna run down. He's gonna be like, "It's all about you, the people, and I'm doing this here now, and you're gonna witness history, and we're doing it together." And I could see Gunther coming down and be like, John Cena, you're a washed up person, your bald spot's showing and all that. But yeah, as far as going after a title, it, I can't see why would you have Cena, a face, go after Rhodes?
right?
So Gunther makes the most sense. I'm with you there. And as far as like a match goes, yeah, let's hope WWE is smart enough to hold off and put him in the Rumble so then the whole house explodes when his music hits and we go, oh, is he actually going to win the Royal Rumble before he retires?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you and I are on the same page there. What about Punk and Rollins? We talked about the vitriol, we talked about the promos, we talked about the bad blood last time. Is there anything new that kind of like you mulled over the week and thought, yeah, I might want to change my prediction, or this is something I now think is going to happen? Anything?
Um, kind of, I guess. So with that last prediction, this prediction isn't gonna make much sense because it's
Okay.
conflicting. um, but what I could see happening is, so tomorrow, obviously they're having a fight. I'm gonna predict CM Punk will win, and CM Punk will go on to fight Gunther at the Royal Rumble for the championship, and I'm predicting from there that Punk will win the championship off of Gunther due to Goldberg interference.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be full circle.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. Okay.
So yeah, that's how I see them setting up like a okay, we get Punk and Rollins in a title match at Mania and we get Gunther Goldberg in a match at Mania.
Which would
Um
be a retirement match,
which would be
correct?
yeah.
Because Goldberg's been floating around the blogosphere being like, I want my one last retirement match.
Yeah. And he said on TV he's got it. It's signed. It's just when is it is there going to be anything before it? Like I don't know if just because he's got his last match doesn't mean he's not going to have a second to last match too or whatever. So we'll see. But yeah, I that's how I see them getting a couple of programs out of it anyway. Is just
Mm,
intertwining these two things. And then yeah, but then where do you put Cena? If he's
yeah.
not going to fight Gunther, so that's yeah. That's why I said it. I don't know which prediction I prefer. My camera just went out,
Yeah.
but I think it's back.
Yeah, you went out a little bit there. Technical difficulties, check one, two, three. Yeah, those are some brilliant observations, honestly. I to go full circle with Goldberg makes a lot of sense to me. Otherwise, why did you have that spot at all, right? Like why did you have them? So, yeah, I think you're right. That'll be interesting. So let's see here. It's unfortunate the IC title is not going to be crowned on Raw, but it makes sense. It would be overshadowed. It's a stacked card. I guess I wanted to touch base and pick your mind here. What do you think about 3 hour shows versus 2 hours?
Yeah, I'm not a fan to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the
Yeah.
2 hours. It just has a better flow to me, and like I just don't think the rosters are deep enough right now to really sustain stories that people are going to care about. Um, like it was okay when it was 1 3 hour show and then the other show was 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that extra hour is going to be tough for SmackDown. I feel like unless they really just, I don't know, like it could be just like a not not like feeding area for NXT, but like like NXT talent could go there to like maybe start something fresh. Like maybe that's like more of a sandboxy type show, and then Raw has more of the established talent and stuff.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Because I know that when I sent you like, oh, the SmackDown officially going to 3 hours is official, you seemed like it was a positive thing, but I'm curious if you've
Yeah.
changed your perspective or
So it's a positive. Okay, context. When Raw was 3 hours, I always split my time. It was very rare for me to watch the full 3 hours, even when I recorded, DVR'd. That's my viewing habit, right? Let's get the commercials out of the way. I'm not here to get my mind zombified by capitalism uh, in that form. Obviously, WWE is a form of entertainment is still driven by that. But 3 hours is tough. I stop at 2 and I split the last hour for the weekend when it's Friday night. And Monday, I usually stop at 2 and then I try to pick up when appropriate for the rest of the week before SmackDown happens. So I'm with you there. My viewing habit is that 2 hour mark with a split for the last hour to leisurely take that in when I can. But the question is with Netflix, will 3 hours feel extraordinarily long with less commercials? No one knows how they're going to execute the commercials. Will it be screen in with a commercial? Um, or will it be fewer commercials, more content? Because I'm leaning towards your comment on that's too much for the roster they have developed. How do you get this deep, rich storytelling with 3 hours of content when your roster is split between three shows?
Right. And there will be call ups like I touched on briefly at the end of our last episode. But like realistically, okay, there's a lot of great women talent on NXT. Like that's where they flourish, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
On the men's side, there's a few guys that are like, okay, like I could see it, like Trick Williams, for example. Like
Whoop that trick.
he's just kind of built for the main card already, but there's so many like just kind of middling, like whatever kind of like men talent over there that if they move those guys over, it's like, do we really need somebody like that fills like the Apollo Crews role, or like if you go
Or
up the
Cameron
Cardinal,
Grimes. They
Cameron
let him
Grimes,
go.
yeah, like those kind of guys, like you had some of those already, and yeah, you just let them go, or like Dijak for example, like
Oh,
Dijak would be sweet, but yeah, they just kind of, I don't know, like nobody really matters on NXT that much. There, I shouldn't say that. There's this guy Obafemi that's going to be a big deal. He's just this gigantic dude, and he's just dominant, right? Like he's like the Omos type if Omos was like more
athletic.
athletic. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just don't think there's enough time, and if there's gonna be 5 minutes of eating segments and stuff like that on every show, then yeah, it's gonna just feel like a grind to get through instead of a joy, right? Like that's
There
the
is a
problem I have in
positive
my life
spin,
with.
though.
Well, yeah, go ahead with your positive
Oh, no,
spin.
no. You finish your thought. I
Oh, I was
apologize.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say like with video games, I have an issue with games that I'm just like grinding to like get a certain piece
Oh,
of armor or whatever it might be, and I just don't want my wrestling to feel like that too, where I'm just grinding to get to okay, where are we? Like, what do I want to see happen here? Like, I don't
right.
want it to feel like a grind. That's all I was
A
getting at.
content grind where you're just skipping to the end to find out what happens, to move to the areas you care about.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel you there. So my positive spin is at least Netflix is it's already built in DVR.
true.
Raw will be there. You don't have to set your DVR anymore. Netflix is a DVR. So I like that element. I'm not a fan of the split territories for SmackDown coming to Netflix. I think they both should have been released at the same time on Netflix. I think that saturation for viewership is unwise. However, there is that positivity where I go, I love how I can kind of just forget that Raw is on Monday if I'm busy and pick it up later because it's Netflix. I just play it and it's there. So, yeah, I don't want the content grind because I find myself when it is 3 hours doing exactly what you described, similar to a video game where I go, if I just get through this part, I get closer to the what I care about.
Right.
And I don't want that to happen with matches because under Triple H, I've become accustomed to actually caring about the development of certain things at all levels of the card. And so to go back to that would be regression, in my opinion. But they seem wise to the fact that this new medium for broadcasting, it's not new, but it's new to sports entertainment, to the WWE. They can do some fun stuff where they are fully aware now in this streaming era, in their partnership with X. People can click it when they want to click it. They can play it and observe anytime, anywhere, any place. It's no longer about, oh, it's live, let me catch it now. Oh, let me DVR it and skip the commercials. Let's take full advantage of the fact we're on Netflix. And if they do that right, there shouldn't be a lot of filler.
Yeah. So hopefully that's how it goes, and yeah, not the 10 minutes of eating like I was saying.
No, no. Yeah,
um,
we'll see. And again, if they keep doing that, like I said earlier in the broadcast, you can't let Jay's fuel run out so early because he's going to be the inheritor of the next. To me, he's the logical competitor to take on the Ulafala when that time comes. But I will say, I am excited more than I've ever been for like something new as far as a broadcasting license, a new network deal. This is really exciting, and I love how, unlike under Vince, they've spent a whole year building this. Where under Vince, if you recall, and maybe you can correct me because I did have a bit of a lull period where I didn't pay attention, but I feel like their broadcasting deals were kind of like hush hush under the table. And when they happened, they were like 2 to 3 months out. Hey, you better tune in. We're switching to sci fi. We're switching to USA. We're switching to Fox. This has been a whole year of consistent drum roll.
yeah, I agree. And when they did that in the past too, like it just didn't. Other than like when I was much younger and maybe didn't
Hmm.
have cable, like having the change of network from cable to regular broadcast TV, like oh, like that's a huge deal for me in that point in my life. But
Yeah.
now, like it doesn't really matter what channel it's on or whatever. So yeah, in those days, going from USA to Sci-Fi, it's like okay, like whatever. So it definitely didn't feel as big as this one, and it's just a kind of unique concept in a way. Like there aren't too many streaming platforms that do like a live weekly thing like this. So um
Yeah.
it's
It's an
where we're
experiment.
headed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Setting the tone.
Another prediction I have, which is kind of a what's the word? Like it's not a happy prediction, I guess.
Oh,
um
okay. All right.
but I'm predicting Cena will not get title 17. Um
Hmm.
I think
Okay.
he's gonna end up retiring with the record. Or tied. Yeah, it's tied right now, technically, with Flair. Unless you listen to Flair, he's won it 20 other times that they don't acknowledge or whatever.
And you know, if Flair's still kicking, he's gonna push for another retirement match if John takes it.
Oh no,
No, I'm just joking, but I'm
no one
with you
wants
there.
that.
Don't you think the legacy of Flair, despite all of his character flaws, it is deserving for the time, the era the man thrived in? And I think it would be inappropriate to have Cena knock him off in a way where he actually one ups him by a whole title. Keeping it tight and tied is more than sufficient for wrestling aficionados.
Yeah, and I feel like Flair did more to advance the industry than Cena did. Like Cena
Mm, yeah.
has just kind of always been over, and he's been great for the community, and like Make a Wish and doing all that stuff. But like, I don't think like if Cena wouldn't have happened, I don't know how much different things would be right now. Like I feel like somebody else potentially could have ended up being the guy that like moved on to Hollywood and blah blah blah, like taking that kind of trajectory. Cuz he didn't like I'm just trying to think of what he was innovative on because his moveset was kind of vanilla. Um
Right.
he like other people have been over with the crowd before him. It's not like he invented being over. Um,
Yeah, he kind of, you're right, if you take his lineage. So the one thing he did usher in, arguably, is he was the capstone. He did bring forth the ruthless aggression era. If you look at the lineage, he literally was the first talent to announce in ring that he was bringing ruthless aggression.
true.
And that was like at the start of his career. And I bet there are YouTube clips of him stating that, and wrestling historians marking that as the beginning of the ruthless aggression era. But after that, you take a look at his move set. His finishers are all spins on known moves. I mean, the FU was what? The F5. It was a play on the F5. Um, and the STFU was already a submission hold that he just again played with his Doctor of Thugonomics spin. And the WWE title belt, it wasn't like when Stone Cold put the skull and crossbones on the wing title. He just added a spinner once he like was done with his JBL rivalry. So in a lot of ways, you're right. John Cena is derivative. He's not necessarily a provocateur or an agent of change at large. He's just very good and very niche at what he does, and he also was the pillar of the PG era. For a guy who brought forth the ruthless aggression era, he thrived more so in the PG era because he became this cornerstone of Make-A-Wish Foundation. Everybody talks about, you hear Rhodes today say, I'm on the John Cena schedule. What does that mean? Being the friendly face of a giant corporate production program. And so, like, yeah, I'm with you. John Cena is derivative. He's a company man to a T. But I will give him credit for bringing forth the initial phase of ruthless aggression.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like I hadn't really ever taken the time to think about that. Like even though I've seen that clip plenty of times of Cena just come out to
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Angle and Angle just being like, "What makes you special, kid?" And he's like, "Ruthless aggression." And yeah, like I just never thought about that being the start of an era. But yeah, so yeah, as great as Cena was, him like sitting alone on that mountaintop to me, no.
Doesn't make sense, right? Because you got Flair. I mean, the Nature Boy, a living legend. The guy is a legend. Like, that is a man, when you read his biography or watch anything about him, you go, and okay, here's a good point. My wife, she's not necessarily a historian of professional wrestling or amateur at that point. And she goes, why isn't Flair dead? Like, no, that's what I mean. A living legend. Like, this guy should have died. This guy has had career altering things happen to him where he should have exited the scene, and he kept coming back. He kept coming back. And the fact that he was not only a company man for the territories, he was a company man for Vince. He was a company man for the competitor, WCW. And he, at some point now, tried to be a company man for AEW. I mean, they had a contract for his little woo energy. The point is Ric Flair will not die, and we should respect that. That in itself is what makes a living legend a legend.
For sure. And yeah, it maybe wasn't healthy for him to live the gimmick the way he did, but like he just always was Ric Flair, you know, like John Cena. I mean, he probably always is John Cena too, just thinking about it, but it doesn't come off that way. He doesn't seem like a genuine person. Like I don't know. I don't know how to
No, the
describe it.
philosophy. So we should get into this sometime when we have a lull in between PLEs. The philosophy of character building. I think that's a really good point, John. Like, what makes a good, genuine character? And most of the time, it's when they embody elements of their own personality and then exemplify or exacerbate or embellish those things within them and bring forth the character on screen. John Cena, you're right. I don't think John Cena fully lived a lot of his character, where Ric Flair, he blurred the lines every day.
Right. And I guess the one thing that I'll give to Cena, because I do like Cena. I didn't mean to make this like a burial of Cena's career. Um, like just he people got burnt out on him because
Yeah.
he was there so much.
What
And
else was there though?
exactly, what else was there? That's exactly it. Because I mean, there could have been other things maybe if Vince wasn't in charge. Like you could make that argument. Like some people that didn't flourish during some of those like
Mm,
mid 2000 to mid 2010s years, like maybe had somebody else been in charge, like we wouldn't have seen like Drew McIntyre have to leave the company kind of thing, or stuff like that. um
right.
but we'll never know.
He, he could rap. That's one thing he did successfully bring to the table. That was a real side of him that he was like, "Hey Vince, I can do this kind of vanilla ice thing." And Vince is like, "I like that. I like that. I like that. You're a white man emulating black culture." So, but yeah, John Cena, for what it's worth, he was a very timely persona. Vince needed him. He needed Vince. If you ever go back to his emergence, he was just a bodybuilder. He was some kid who was into bodybuilding. Looked good. He looked the part, but he had no background or aspirations to become the professional wrestler he is today.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, John, there's lots of exciting discussions ahead this year. I look forward for CCW to grow and expand alongside WWE. Um, it is my opinion that with the growth of Netflix and WWE and widespread viewership, that there are going to be more ears and eyes on our product. And again, for those who already are subscribed and are tuning in, if you ever have suggestions and you want to kind of have your voice heard, just drop us a comment. Definitely click like, subscribe if you're not already doing so. Is there anything you wanted to add to end the broadcast today as we are 24 hours, essentially a little bit more away from Raw premiering on Netflix?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't have much else. We could. I mean, there's plenty of things that we could talk about that would just go another 20 minutes. uh,
Right, right.
I'm just trying to think if there's any quick hitters. Quick. Oh, I don't know if this will happen tomorrow, but we still got to find out like who took out Jade Cargill. Um,
Oh yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
so well, curious where that goes. I think Naomi's involved, whether or not she did it or hired somebody or whatever it might be. Just because, like, she had this promo package before the Nia Jax match about how, like, she hasn't had a world title in 8 years and, like, she's coming back for it and what the glow means and, like, whatever.
And she changes the environment around her. She's super woke.
Is she?
Well, no, what I mean in that promo, she was just like, I am an agent of change. And
Oh,
just adding to what you're saying, maybe
okay.
she was like hinting at like, she did this because she's an agent of change. She changes that environment with her thoughts.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know where I thought you were going, but yeah.
Sorry, yeah, when I added the woke, you're like, okay, Joel. But no, that is, I want to see Belair. So Bianca versus Cargill. Oh yeah, I'm all about it. We going back a few episodes, I told you like if they weren't tagging, this is inevitable.
Yeah, and that could be a Mania match. That could be somewhere down the road. That's a good prediction. Is Jade and Bianca at some point? Um, do you think Kevin Owens and KO are gonna fight again? Because he's kind of been hinting at it. I feel like.
Kevin Owens and who?
Uh oh, did I say Kevin Owens and KO?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, wait, are they gonna? He's gonna beat himself up. That'd
Kevin
be
Owens
interesting.
and Sami Zayn.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm surprised that Sammy hasn't been more involved. Um, you know, not Michael Cole coming to the car in the cold. I thought like Sammy would show up and be like, "Hey man, how you doing, buddy? You seem a little unhinged." But he's too busy with wrapping up the honorary Uso angle. So yes, we're gonna see that. and it's just around the corner. We're going to see Bloodline wrap up. We're going to see probably Owens go off the deep end after he loses to Rhodes. I don't see Rhodes dropping the
No,
title to Owens at Rumble. And then Sammy's going to be kind of floating around to catch up and have that catapulted into the road to WrestleMania, right? Hopefully, because that would be great. I mean, Sammy is fantastic. His energy, no matter where you put him, he is doing very well. Even going back to that awful Johnny Knoxville gimmick match. He gave it all, he gave it his all. And that's one thing you can expect from Sammy. No matter where you put him, he's going to thrive because that's the type of personality he has.
for sure. And I forget if I brought this up to you, but just Sami Zayn had done like some stand up shows, and Johnny Knoxville had, like shown up to like heckle him and stuff. Like,
That's right. That's right. Yes, they
but
appear to be good friends. And if people haven't seen that, yeah, it's right what John said. Sami Zayn has done stand up. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Check it out.
yeah, I don't know if it's any good, but um, anyways, that's kind of all I got. I predict at some point, I guess that Drew will go for the WWE title after Mania. If Cody
Yeah.
still has it, I think.
I want to see a Randy Orton Drew McIntyre match for number one contender because I think that could be potentially really like a classic, something like Orton versus Gunther, just because the caliber of their athleticism.
Yeah, and their stature and just
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything about them. That's kind of all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got too. This was kind of a last minute follow up. I just texted John. I said, "Hey, man, you sure we shouldn't do a preview part two? Because I feel like there's so many moving parts, and I feel like this is beginning to be bigger than just a Raw switching to another cable station."
Definitely,
And yeah, as you can see, I think this episode ran longer than our first one, so it is justified.
definitely, and you can enjoy viewing Zebra Joel here on YouTube. Um,
Yeah, Zebra Joel, I've thought about like just pausing and lifting the shade, but then I'm like, you know what? I kind of like this look.
oh man! All right, well, everybody, enjoy Raw tomorrow. We'll probably we got to talk about it for sure, but we'll probably recap what happens.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then down later in the month here, we got another Saturday night's main event the weekend
Hmm.
before the Royal Rumble. So maybe we do
That's
some kind of
perfect.
combo show, like maybe a recap of Saturday night's main event leading into a preview of Royal
I
Rumble,
love
something
it.
like that.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
stay tuned and everybody enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you soon.